Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. In today's session, we're exploring something that often pops up in beginner Java questions, but also shows up in real-world projects more often than you'd expect. We're talking about the difference between float, the primitive type, and float, the wrapper class. Let's jump into it. Create a file called floatwrapper.java. We'll use it for all the examples in this video. Or if you'd rather not type everything out, you can grab the full source code from the link in the video description. Either way, follow along and try things out as we go. Hands-on practice really helps lock it in. At its core, float is a 32-bit primitive type used to store decimal numbers, like 3.14 or 9.81. It's simple, fast, and super efficient, but it doesn't come with any built-in methods. Now enter float with a capital F. This is an object wrapper for the primitive float. And because it's an object, it lives in Java's class system, meaning you can use methods, you can store null, and it plays nicely with collections like ArrayList. Quick comparison, float versus float. Let's just get the basics straight. Float is primitive, fast, and lightweight. Float is an object, comes with methods and flexibility. You can't assign null to a float, but you can assign null to a float. Use float when you care about speed and performance. Use float when working with collections, generics, or APIs that expect objects. Alright, now let's dig into something Java does for us automatically. Autoboxing and unboxing. Ever seen code like this? Even though you're assigning a float to a float, Java doesn't complain. That's called autoboxing. Java automatically wraps the primitive float into a float object for you. That's unboxing. Java pulls the float value out of the float object. It all happens behind the scenes, and it makes our code a lot more readable. But be careful. If you try to unbox a null float, it will throw a null pointer exception. Handy methods in the float class. Since float is a class, it comes with some useful tools. Here are a few that you'll probably use. parseFloat turns a string like 3.14 into a primitive float. valueOf returns a float object from a string. Compare tells you which number is greater, returns -1, 0, or 1. Is_n checks if the number is not a number. Is_infinite checks for positive or negative infinity. Float value extracts the primitive value from a float object. Equals compares float values. Max, min, sum, handy for quick math comparisons. Alright, that wraps up our deep dive. Take a few minutes to try it out in your own editor. The best way to master this is by writing real code and learning from your mistakes. Hope this was helpful. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check the description below for links, documentation, and source code.